The screaming had stopped. That was the first thing Lyra noticed as she pushed through the crowd gathered in Shadowmere's central courtyard. Her young brother Finn's hand clutched tightly in hers. The silence was worse than screams. It meant the condemned had either passed out or was beyond pain. "Stay close," she whispered to Finn, though the 10-year-old was already pressed against her side, his thin frame tense with the wariness of a child who'd learned early that crowds meant danger. The crowd reeked of excitement and fear, that particular combination that only came with public punishments. At the center of the courtyard, illuminated by torches that turned the falling snow crimson, stood the Blood Moon Tribunal's platform. 3 masked judges sat in their ceremonial chairs, but it was the figure kneeling before them that made Lyra's breath catch. Even from a distance, even bloodied and bound in cursed silver chains that had burned through his shirt to sear the flesh beneath, the man radiated lethal power. He was massive, easily the largest man she'd ever seen, with pitch-black hair that fell past his shoulders and skin that seemed to shimmer between human and something else entirely. "Behold," the center judge called out, his voice carrying easily across the silent square. "Kale Nightwhisper, former Alpha King of the Northern Wastes, caught crossing our borders, trespassing on civilized lands." A murmur rippled through the crowd. "Alpha King?" Lyra had heard whispers of the wolf kingdoms beyond the mountain passes, but she'd thought them legends meant to frighten children. The condemned man Kale raised his head slowly, and Lyra saw his eyes. Amber gold, bright as molten metal, scanning the crowd with an intelligence that seemed wrong for someone who should be dying. Those eyes passed over her, paused for a heartbeat, then moved on. But in that brief moment, she caught something in his expression: satisfaction, as if he'd found exactly what he'd been looking for. The trap worked perfectly, Kale thought, keeping his expression neutral. "She's here," just as the visions showed. "The sentence is death by silver poisoning." The judge continued, "Unless someone claims responsibility for his rehabilitation into civilized society, the fee is 100 gold marks." Someone in the crowd laughed bitterly. 100 gold marks was more than most families saw in a lifetime. 50 gold marks, the judge announced when no one stepped forward. "Surely someone wants a broken alpha as a servant?" "He'll kill us all in our sleep," someone shouted. 25 marks. The judge's voice held irritation now. "This is your final chance before we proceed with the execution." Lyra found herself moving forward before she consciously decided to. It was those eyes, not pleading, not desperate, but knowing and somehow waiting, as if this moment was exactly where he expected to be. "I'll take him." The words fell into sudden silence. Every head in the prison, a square turned to her Lyra Moonstone, the orphan seamstress who barely kept food on the table for herself and her brother. "You?" The center judge leaned forward, his mask glinting. "And what payment do you offer?" Lyra's hand went to the leather pouch at her belt. Inside were 6 silver coins, their rent money, their food money, everything they had saved for winter supplies. Without it, they'd likely starve before spring, but Finn had been coughing blood last week. The mysterious illness that plagued the poor quarters had finally found them. She'd prayed to any god who would listen for a miracle, for some way to save him. And sometimes miracles came in the form of dying wolf kings. 6 silver, she said, loud enough for all to hear. "It's all I have." The judge started to refuse, but Kale spoke for the first time, his voice a low rumble that seemed to vibrate through the ground itself. "I accept her offer." "You don't get to accept," the judge began. "Ancient law," Kyle interrupted, his chains rattling as he shifted. Any condemned may choose their rehabilitation keeper if the offer is made freely. I choose her, the judges whispered among themselves furiously. Lyra felt the crowd's eyes on her, some pitying, some horrified, most convinced she'd just signed her own death warrant. So be it. The center judge finally spat. Lyra Moonstone claims the condemned. May the gods help you, girl. The guards unlocked Kale's chains with obvious reluctance. The moment the cursed silver left his skin, Lyra saw the burned flesh beneath begin to heal too quickly to be human. He stood slowly, unfolding to his full height, and Lyra had to crane her neck to look at his face. This close, she could smell wild forests and winter storms on his skin. Why? She whispered. His amber eyes held hers. You're her, he said simply, as if that explained everything. The one I've been seeing in visions since the moon turned blood red 3 months ago. Before Lyra could respond, before she could even process his words, Kale's legs buckled. She moved instinctively to catch him, and the moment her hands touched his bare skin where the shirt had burned away, the world exploded. Power raw, primordial, wild slammed through her body like lightning. She heard herself scream, felt Kale's arms come around her as they both fell, and then his voice was in her mind, not her ears. Look at me when you're afraid. Lyra's eyes snapped to his, and she saw them shift from amber to pure wolf gold. The last thing she registered before darkness claimed her was Kale's teeth at her throat, not biting, just resting there, a promise or a threat, and his voice echoing through her bones. Mine. Finally, mine. When she woke seconds later, or was it hours, she was changed. She could feel it in every cell, every breath. The crowd had backed away in a wide circle, some making signs against evil. Finn was tugging at her arm, tears streaming down his face. Lyra, Lyra, your eyes. They turned silver for a moment. She looked up at Kale, who was somehow standing despite the silver poisoning that should have killed him. He offered her his hand, and she saw knowledge in his gaze, knowledge of what she was, what she'd always been without knowing it. We need to leave, he said in perfectly accented common tongue, though moments ago she'd heard him speak only in the old language. Now, before they realize what just happened. What did happen? She whispered, accepting his hand, letting him pull her to her feet. Where their skin touched, she felt that electric current again, weaker but constant. You woke up, he said simply, then louder for the crowd. I submit to my keeper's authority. We'll leave immediately. As they walked through the parting crowd, Finn clutching Lyra's other hand, she heard Kale's voice in her mind again. Impossible, but undeniable. The blood moon rises in 3 nights. If you're not fully turned by then, we both die. And little wolf, you're going to fight me every step of the way. Lyra's cottage sat at the very edge of Shadowmere, where the cobblestones gave way to dirt, and the town guards rarely bothered to patrol. It was little more than 2 rooms and a leaking roof, but it had one advantage: isolation. She needed that isolation now, because the Alpha King she'd just purchased was burning with fever, speaking in tongues she didn't recognize, and his eyes kept shifting between human amber and wolf gold every time he looked at her. Is he dying? Finn asked quietly from the doorway, clutching the threadbare blanket Lyra had given him. Despite his earlier tears, he now watched with the steady gaze of a boy forced to grow up too fast. No, Kale answered before Lyra could, his voice rough. Just purging the silver from my blood. Your sister's touch is helping. Lyra jerked her hand back from where she'd been pressing a cold cloth to his forehead. How do you know that? Because the pain lessens when you're near. He caught her wrist before she could fully retreat, his grip gentle but unbreakable. And because I can feel you now, here. He pressed her palm flat against his chest, over his heart. We're connected, little wolf. Whether you accept it or not. She yanked her hand free. Stop calling me that. I'm not a wolf. I'm human. Something dark and amused flashed in his eyes. Are you? Then explain what happened in the square. Explain why you can hear my thoughts when I project them. Explain why your brother's illness is already fading just from being near you now. Lyra whirled to look at Finn. And indeed, the boy's color looked better than it had in days. The dark circles under his eyes were fading. What did you do to me? She whispered. Nothing you weren't born to be. Cale tried to sit up, winced, and fell back against the pile of worn cushions she'd arranged on the floor. Your bloodline is old, Lyra Moonstone. Older than this town. Older than the walls humans built to keep us out. You're a dormant heir, and my presence is awakening what was always there. You're insane. Perhaps. His eyes tracked her as she paced the small room. Tell me, how did your parents die? The question hit like a physical blow. House fire. 5 years ago. All the doors and windows barred from the outside? Cale asked softly. The town guards mysteriously absent? And afterward, didn't the local magistrate try to take you and your brother to the orphan house? But something always prevented it? Lyra's pacing stopped. How could you possibly know that? Because it's the same pattern. Every dormant heir in the border towns killed or controlled before they can manifest. You survived because you were old enough to hide, young enough to seem harmless. But the blood moon changes everything. Stop. Lyra pressed her palms against her temples where a headache was building. Just stop. I saved you because I needed. I thought maybe. She couldn't finish the sentence. Couldn't admit she'd hoped an alpha's blood might cure Finn's illness. It seemed foolish now. You saved me because your wolf recognized its mate, Cale said simply. Alpha wolves have prophetic dreams. It's part of our burden. I've been seeing you for months. The word mate hung in the air between them like a blade. No. Lyra's voice was barely a whisper. That's not possible. Look at me. She kept her gaze fixed on the floor. Lyra. His voice carried a subtle command that made her bones ache. Look at me when you're afraid. Her eyes snapped to his against her will, and the moment they met, she felt it a pull so strong it nearly drove her to her knees. In his gaze, she saw forests she'd never walked, moons she'd never howled beneath, and a hunger that matched something wild and desperate suddenly awaking in her own chest. There she is, he murmured, satisfaction in his voice. There's my queen. The moment shattered when someone pounded on the door hard enough to shake dust from the rafters. Open up. By order of the magistrate. Lyra recognized the voice. Captain Thorne, the magistrate's enforcer. Cruel, ambitious, and absolutely the last person she wanted to see right now. Hide. She hissed at Cale, but he was already standing, moving with a predator's grace, despite the silver poisoning that should have left him bedridden. I don't hide, he said simply. The door burst open before Lyra could argue. Captain Thorne entered with 6 guards, their silver-lined clubs gleaming in the lamplight. Well, well. Thorne's scarred face split into an ugly grin. The little seamstress and her pet wolf. The magistrate wants to discuss the terms of your arrangement. I paid the price. He's legally mine to rehabilitate. Yours? Thorne laughed. Girl, do you have any idea what you've bought? This isn't just some feral wolf from the wastes. This is Cale Nightwhisper, the alpha who slaughtered 50 of the king's soldiers at Crimson Pass. Lyra glanced at Cale, who stood perfectly still, watching the guards with an unsettling calm. Ancient law protects her claim, Kale said quietly. Unless you're prepared to break it? The magistrate recognizes a higher law. You're both coming with us. The girl for harboring a war criminal, and you for existing. No. Finn darted forward from his hiding spot. You can't take her. Thorn backhanded the boy casually, sending him crashing into the wall. The change happened so fast, Lyra barely saw it. One moment Kale was standing still. The next he had Thorn by the throat, lifting the captain off his feet with one hand. His eyes were pure gold now, and when he spoke, his voice had doubled, carrying an echo that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Touch the boy again, and I'll paint these walls with your blood. The guards raised their clubs, but Lyra moved without thinking, placing herself between them and Kale. Power surged through her. The partial bond from his touch at the tribunal had cracked. Something open inside her, letting magic bleed through before she was ready. Stop! The command rippled through her voice like thunder. The guards froze mid-swing, their bodies locked in place. Even Thorn stopped struggling in Kale's grip. Impossible, one guard whispered. She's manifesting. Without training, without a pack. Put him down, Kale, Lyra said quietly, and to her surprise, he obeyed immediately, dropping Thorn to gasp on the floor. You little witch, Thorn wheezed, scrambling backward. The magistrate will hear about this. Both of you are dead. Come dawn. No, Kale said, stepping forward. We're leaving. Tonight. The town is sealed. Every exit guarded. You'll never. Kale smiled then, and it was all Wolf. Who said anything about using the exits? He turned to Lyra, and she gasped. The silver poisoning's marks were completely gone. He looked larger somehow, more solid, as if her power had not just healed him but made him more than he was before. Do you trust me? He asked. No, she said honestly. Smart woman, but you'll come anyway, because you know what happens to your brother if you stay. He was right. After what just happened, after displaying power she shouldn't have, they'd take Finn to the orphan house for sure, or worse. Where would we go? She asked. North. To my territory. My pack will protect you while you learn what you are. Your pack? Lyra laughed bitterly. The one that let their alpha get captured? Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. They were following my orders. I allowed myself to be taken. It was the only way to find you. He held out his hand. Choose quickly, little wolf. Them or me. Lyra looked at Thorn and his guards, still struggling against whatever she'd done to freeze them. Looked at Finn, bruised, but watching her with absolute trust. Looked at Kale, this impossible man who called her queen and made her feel powerful for the first time in her life. She took his hand. The moment their skin touched, the world exploded again. But this time, she was ready for it. She felt her consciousness expand, felt every wolf for miles, suddenly aware of her existence. And in the distance, getting closer, she heard howling. My pack, Kale explained, pulling her closer. They never left. They've been waiting for me to find you. Before Lyra could process this revelation, the cottage wall exploded inward. Not from violence, but from the massive white wolf that burst through, followed by another and another. Within seconds, the small space was filled with wolves of every color, all larger than any natural wolf should be. Thorn and his guards screamed, finally able to move, scrambling for the door. But the wolves let them go, focused entirely on Kale and Lyra. Shift, Kale commanded her. Let your wolf form take you. I don't know how. You do. His hands framed her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Look at me when you're afraid, and let go." Lyra stared into those amber gold depths and felt something inside her snap free. The change rippled through her like water, natural as breathing. One moment she was human, the next she stood on 4 legs, her fur silver white as moonlight. "Beautiful," Kale's voice echoed in her mind. "My perfect mate." "This is insane," she thought back, startled that she could. "This is destiny," he corrected. And then he was shifting too, becoming a massive black wolf that dwarfed even the others. Within minutes, they were running through the forest beyond Shadowmere's walls, Finn somehow secured on the back of the white wolf, laughing with delight instead of fear. Lyra ran beside Kale, their bodies moving in perfect synchronization, and for the first time in her life, she felt truly free. But even as they ran, even as she reveled in this new power, she heard Kale's voice in her mind, deadly serious. "The blood moon is in 2 nights. If you don't complete the mating bond by then, your transformation will reverse violently. You'll die, a little wolf, and I'll be forced to watch." "Then complete it now," she shot back, surprising herself with her boldness. "You're not ready. You don't trust me yet. And a forced bond would kill us both faster than the blood moon." They ran in silence after that, but Lyra couldn't shake the feeling that she was racing towards something inevitable, death or surrender. And she wasn't sure which frightened her more. The northern wastes were nothing like Lyra had imagined. Instead of barren frozen ground, she found herself in a hidden valley wrapped in perpetual mist. The wasteland's reputation was a carefully cultivated lie beyond the dead outer ring. Heated by underground springs, lay a paradise of green even in winter. The pack's stronghold wasn't a crude cave or camp, but a fortress carved directly into the mountainside, its spires reaching toward the stars. "Welcome to Moonspire Keep," Kale said, back in human form, steadying her as she swayed on legs suddenly human again. The shift back had been harder, more painful, leaving her feeling like her bones had been rearranged by an angry god. "It's beautiful," Finn breathed, his eyes wide as he took in the massive gates adorned with silver moonstone that seemed to glow from within. "It's warded," Lyra realized, feeling the magic humming through the air. "The entire valley is hidden. For centuries," Kyle confirmed. "The northern wastes appear desolate from outside, but this valley is our secret, heated by underground springs, protected by old magic. The humans think we live in dead lands. They don't know we've built a kingdom here." As they entered the keep, wolves who had run with them began shifting back to human form. Men and women of all ages, though all bearing that same predatory grace, that otherness that marked them as more than human. They watched Lyra with expressions ranging from curiosity to suspicion. "My lord," a woman approached, her silver hair marking her as an elder, despite her youthful face. "The pack," questions bringing an outsider here, especially an untrained dormant who reeks of human towns. "Mind your tone, Vera," Kale's voice carried a warning. "You address your future queen." Vera's pale eyes widened, then narrowed. "She hasn't survived the blood moon yet. She may never." "Enough." The command in Kale's voice made everyone in the hall lower their heads submissively. Everyone except Lyra. "Don't," she said sharply. "Don't silence her for speaking truth. I haven't survived anything yet. I don't even know what I am." Vera studied her with new interest. "Perhaps there's hope for you after all, human-raised or not." "Vera is my second," Kale explained. "She protected the pack while I was away, while you were stupidly getting yourself captured on purpose," Vera corrected. 3 months, Kale. 3 months of maintaining the lie that you were missing. I told you I had to follow the vision. The vision. Vera's voice dripped skepticism. A fever dream about a silver-eyed woman who would save us all. And you risk everything for it? Look at her eyes now, Vera. Everyone turned to stare at Lyra, and she resisted the urge to cover her face. Silver, someone whispered. True silver, like the moon herself. The prophecy, another voice added. The silver wolf who would unite the packs and break the curse. What curse? Lyra interrupted, but Kale was already guiding her away from the crowd. Rest first. Explanations later. No. She planted her feet, refusing to move. I'm tired of half-truths and cryptic warnings. Tell me everything, or I take Finn and leave right now. Kale studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Very well. Vera, take the boy to get food and rest. I want to stay with Lyra, Finn protested, maintaining the steady maturity he'd shown all day. It's okay, Lyra assured him, though she wasn't sure it was. I'll come find you soon. You need to eat. You're still recovering. Once Finn was gone, Kale led her to a circular chamber at the top of the highest tower. The walls were covered in paintings, wolves, moons, and scenes of battle that seemed to move in the flickering firelight. 100 years ago, Kale began, there were dozens of wolf packs, scattered but strong. We lived in balance with humans, keeping to our territories, occasionally trading. Then the blood moon prophecy was spoken by the last oracle. He gestured to a painting of a woman with silver eyes, eerily similar to Lyra's own. She foretold that a silver wolf would be born to unite the scattered packs, but only through a mate, bond with the strongest alpha. Together, they would either break the curse that keeps us from fully controlling our shifts, or the bloodline would end entirely. No more wolves. Ever. Lyra sank into a chair, the weight of his words crushing. And you think I'm this silver wolf? I know you are. Kale knelt in front of her, taking her hands. The moment I saw you in that crowd, every instinct screamed it. When you touched me, when your dormant power woke Lyra, you didn't just heal my silver poisoning, you made me stronger. That's impossible for a normal wolf. But I don't know anything about being a wolf. I was raised human. I can barely shift without passing out, which is why the blood moon is so dangerous for you. His thumbs traced circles on her palms, and she fought not to shiver at the touch. Your power is fighting itself. The wolf trying to emerge, the human trying to stay, and something else, something unique to silver wolves caught between them. What's something else? The ability to command any wolf, regardless of pack, to heal or hurt with a touch, to see possible futures in dreams. He paused. Have you been dreaming of me, little wolf? Lyra's breath caught. She had been, every night since the tribunal, dreams of running through forests, of amber eyes watching her, of a voice calling her home. Those aren't dreams, Kale said softly. They're visions. Your wolf calling to mine across the bond that's trying to form. But we barely know each other. Our wolves don't care about human concepts of time. He released her hands and stood, pacing to the window. But I do, which is why I won't force this. The bond has to be your choice, completely willing, or it becomes a cage that kills us both. And if I don't choose it by tomorrow night, he didn't turn around, then you die. Slowly, painfully, as your body tears itself apart. And his voice broke slightly, I go feral, an alpha who loses his true mate before the bond completes, becomes a mindless beast. The pack will have to put me down, That's not fair, Lyra whispered. No, he agreed. It's not. A knock interrupted them. Vera entered without waiting for permission, her face grim. We have a problem. Scouts report human soldiers massing at the valley's edge. Hundreds of them, with silver weapons and mountain climbers. Someone told them how to find us. Impossible, Kale snarled. The wards are failing. Vera's eyes found Lyra. Your wild, untrained power disrupts them, but focused intention can rebuild them. It's the difference between a flood and a river. She needs training, and we don't have time. I'm sorry. Lyra started, but Vera waved her off. It's not intentional, but we need to decide, fight or flee. And if we fight, we lose. Kale finished. Too many of them. Too many silver weapons. There's another option, Vera said carefully. If the silver wolf bond completes before they breach the valley, her power would strengthen the wards tenfold, make us invisible again. No, Kale's voice was sharp. I won't use an invasion to force her hand. Then we all die for your nobility, Vera shot back. The entire pack, including her little brother. Lyra stood, decision crystallizing in her mind. How long until they reach us? Dawn, Vera said. Maybe sooner if they push through the night. And the blood moon rises at midnight? Tomorrow. Yes. Lyra looked between them Kale, who watched her with a mixture of hunger and regret, and Vera, whose pragmatic assessment hid genuine fear for her pack. Then we have tonight, Lyra said simply. Teach me to be a wolf. Really teach me. If I'm going to make this choice, I need to understand what I'm choosing. Lyra, Kale started. No more protecting me from the truth. She stepped closer to him, close enough to feel the heat radiating from his body. Show me everything. The good, the bad, the dangerous. Let me see who you really are, when you're not trying to be careful with the fragile human girl. Something wild flashed in his eyes. You might not like what you see. I might not, she agreed. But at least it'll be real. Kale studied her for a long moment, then his lips curved in a smile that was all predator. Very well, little wolf. You want to see the real me? Then run. Before she could ask what he meant, he was shifting, clothes shredding as the massive, black wolf emerged. He howled a sound that made every nerve in her body sing, then leaped through the tower window. He's insane, Vera observed. But he's right. The fastest way to learn is to let your wolf take over completely, and the fastest way to do that, she smiled, and it wasn't entirely friendly, is to be hunted by an alpha who wants you. Lyra's heart pounded as she heard Cal's howl echo through the valley, calling to her, challenging her. Her wolf stirred beneath her skin, eager to answer. One piece of advice, Vera added as Lyra moved toward the window. When he catches you, and he will catch you, don't fight the instinct to bare your throat. It's not submission when it's your mate. It's trust. Lyra didn't answer. She was already shifting, her clothes falling away as silver fur replaced skin. Then she was running, leaping through the same window, chasing or being chased, she wasn't sure which. But as Kale's scent filled her nostrils and his howl made her wolf sing with recognition, she realized it didn't matter. The hunt was on, and for the first time in her life, Lyra felt truly, completely alive. Look at me when you're afraid, his voice echoed in her mind. I'm not afraid, she shot back, putting on a burst of speed. Liar, he replied, and she could hear the smile in it. But don't worry, little wolf. By dawn, you won't be afraid anymore. You'll be mine. The challenge in his voice made her wolf howl in response. The moon was setting when Kale finally cornered her. Lyra had run for hours, her silver form weaving through towering pines and leaping over frozen streams. Every time she thought she'd lost him, his scent would appear from a different direction, herding her deeper into the wilderness. He was playing with her, she realized, teaching her the landscape through chase. Now she stood at the edge of a cliff, the valley spreading below like a sea of mist, and she could hear him approaching through the underbrush. Slow, deliberate, no longer hiding his presence. Nowhere left to run, little wolf. His mental voice sent shivers through her that had nothing to do with fear. She turned to face him, her silver fur bristling as the massive black wolf emerged from the shadows. "I wasn't running from you," she replied, surprising herself with the steadiness of her mental voice. "I was learning." "And what did you learn?" "That you know every inch of this territory. That you could have caught me hours ago but chose to let me explore. That you're not the only wolf following us." His golden eyes gleamed with approval. "Very good. Who else?" "Your pack. At least 6 of them, keeping pace but never interfering. This wasn't just a hunt, it was a test." Kale shifted back to human form, and Lyra fought not to stare. In the moonlight, his body was all lean muscle and barely contained power. Scars crisscrossed his chest and arms, evidence of battles won and lost. "Shift back," he commanded softly. "We need to talk, and dawn is coming." Lyra hesitated. She'd left her clothes back at the tower, and the thought of being human and vulnerable naked in front of him made her heart race. "I won't look," he said, though his slight smile suggested he knew exactly why she hesitated. He turned his back, and Lyra quickly shifted, gasping at the pain that was already less than before. "I need clothes," she said, wrapping her arms around herself. Without turning, Kale pulled off his own shirt. How did he still have clothes after shifting? And tossed it back to her. Old wolves learn to shift with their belongings. You'll master it eventually. The shirt smelled like him, pine and smoke, and something distinctly wild, and fell to her mid-thigh. When she cleared her throat, he turned back, and the hunger that flashed through his eyes made her stomach flip. "The soldiers," she said quickly, needing to focus on something other than the way he was looking at her. "How did they find this place? Someone betrayed us. Someone who knew exactly how to navigate the wards." His expression darkened. "I have suspicions, but right now, we have bigger problems." "Bigger than an invasion?" He stepped closer, and Lyra had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. "You felt it during the run, didn't you? The pull between us getting stronger?" She had. With every mile, every shared thought, through their mental connection, something had been building, like a rope winding tighter and tighter, drawing them together. "The partial bond from the tribunal is destabilizing," he explained. "Your wolf recognizes mine as its mate, but your human side is fighting it. That conflict is what's disrupting the valley's wards." So Vera was right. "I'm putting everyone in danger just by being here." "No." His hand cupped her cheek, thumb brushing over her cheekbone. "The danger was always coming. You're not the cause. You're the solution, but only if you choose to be." "The bond," she whispered. "The bond." He leaned closer, his forehead resting against hers. "I need you to understand something, Lyra. If we do this, when we do this, it's forever. Wolves mate for life. There's no human divorce, no walking away when things get difficult. You'll be mine, and I'll be yours, until death. And if I say no?" Pain flashed through his eyes before he masked it. "Then I'll get you and Finn out before the soldiers arrive. Find somewhere safe for you two, to die peacefully when the blood moon rises. While you go feral, the pack will handle that." His voice was too casual, and she heard what he wasn't saying. His pack would have to kill him, Before she could respond, a howl split the air, then another, and another. Alert calls. They're here, Kale snarled, spinning toward the valley. In the growing dawn light, Lyra could see them, hundreds of soldiers in silver armor, pouring through the mountain passes like ants. That's impossible, Vera said, dawn at the earliest. Magic. Kale's voice was grim. They have a witch with them. I can smell the burned herbs from here. They ran back toward the keep, Kale in wolf form, Lyra stumbling on human legs, until he shifted back and simply scooped her into his arms. Running faster than any human should be able to, the keep was in chaos when they arrived. Wolves everywhere, shifting between forms, grabbing weapons, shepherding cubs and elders to safe rooms. Vera stood at the center, barking orders. They'll breach the outer wall within the hour, she reported when she saw them. Their witch is unraveling the wards like pulling thread from cloth. Where's Finn? Lyra demanded. Safe room with the other young ones. Don't worry, it's the most defended part of the keep. Options? Kale asked. Fight and likely lose. Run and definitely lose. They have riders cutting off escape routes. Vera's eyes found Lyra. Or, no, Kyle cut her off. It's not your choice anymore, Vera snapped back. This is about pack survival. What aren't you telling me? Lyra demanded. Vera straightened. There's a ritual, an emergency bonding ceremony that can be done before the blood moon. It's dangerous. Many don't survive it, but if successful, your combined power would be enough to destroy the entire army. How dangerous? Without the blood moon's power to ease the transition, 1 in 3 survive. Better odds than waiting, someone called out. Silence! Kale roared, and the keep went quiet. He turned to Lyra, his eyes desperate. I won't let you risk! An explosion rocked the keep. Then another. The outer wall was falling. Kyle. A young wolf ran in, bleeding from a gash on his forehead. They're through, and... He paused, fearful. They have Finn. The world stopped. What? Lyra's voice was deadly quiet. A strike team. They went straight for the safe room like they knew where it was. They took 3 cubs, including your brother. Their witch says. He swallowed. She says she'll trade them for you. Just you. You go with them. And everyone else lives. Lyra felt something inside her snap. Not break, transform. The fear she'd been carrying crystallized into rage so pure it burned. Where? She asked. The courtyard. But Lyra, it's a trap. She was already moving, and this time when she shifted it was instant, painless. Her silver wolf burst from human form like it had been waiting, and she heard gasps as she passed. She's bigger than before, someone whispered. That's not possible. Lyra reached the courtyard to find a nightmare. Soldiers everywhere, silver weapons gleaming. In the center stood a woman in black robes, her face hidden beneath a hood. And beside her, held by chains that burned their skin, Finn, and 2 other young wolves. Finn! Lyra shifted back, not caring that she was naked, not caring about anything but her brother. Ah, the silver wolf appears. The witch's voice was hauntingly familiar. Come closer, child. Let me see what my spell has wrought. Your spell? The witch lowered her hood, and Lyra gasped. It was Magistrate Thorne's wife, Helena, who had always been kind to the orphans, always left food at their door when times were hard. You? Lyra breathed. Why? Because I've been searching for you for years. Helena smiled, but it was cold. The last silver wolf. Do you know what your blood can do? It can cure any illness, break any curse. It can make a human immortal. You're insane. Am I? I've kept this worthless town alive for decades, waiting for you to manifest. But you hid so well, little orphan. If not for the Alpha King's arrival triggering your awakening, I might never have found you. Let them go, Lyra said. Take me, but let the cubs go. No. Kale appeared beside her, along with a dozen other wolves. You're not sacrificing yourself. How touching, Helena laughed. The mighty Alpha King reduced to begging. Tell me, Kale, have you told her the truth? About why you really allowed yourself to be captured in Shadowmere? Kale went very still. Oh, she doesn't know? Helena's smile widened. He wasn't randomly caught, dear girl. He came looking for you specifically. The prophecy told him exactly when and where you'd manifest. He orchestrated everything, even ensuring your brother's illness would force you to act. What? Lyra turned to Kale, her heart shattering. Is that true? Lyra, let me explain. Is it true? Power rolled through her voice, making everyone except Helena step back. The illness was already in the town, Kale said desperately. I just ensured you'd be in the right place when Finn got sick. I knew it would force you to act, to save him. I knew it would wake your power. Lyra felt hollow, empty. You used my brother's life as bait. I did what I had to do to find you, to save my pack, to prevent our entire species from dying out. The visions showed two paths, one where you were at the winter market when Finn got sick and he died alone, or one where you were there to save him. You still manipulated us, Lyra said, her voice dead. She turned back to Helena. I'll come with you, willingly. But first, swear a blood oath that you'll leave the valley and never return. Lyra, no! Finn cried out, struggling against his chains despite the burn. Swear it, Lyra commanded. Helena pricked her finger, letting blood drop to the ground. I swear on my blood, if you come willingly, we leave and never return. Lyra started walking toward her, ignoring Kale's roar of protest, ignoring the pack's howls. But as she passed Finn, she whispered something only he could hear. His eyes widened with understanding. Then he nodded slightly. I'm ready, Lyra said, holding out her wrists for chains. The moment Helena touched her, everything changed. The witch screamed as power, raw, untamed Silverwolf power poured from Lyra into her. But instead of the gift Helena expected, it was poison to her corrupted magic. You made one mistake, Lyra said as Helena writhed. You let me get close, enough to touch you. And you were right, Silverwolf blood can break any curse, including the one you've been using to control these soldiers. All around them, soldiers were stumbling, confused, as Helena's control shattered. The chains holding the cubs dissolved. Run! Lyra shouted to Finn, who shifted and bolted with the other young wolves. Helena collapsed, her magic burning out. Impossible. You haven't completed the bond. You shouldn't have this much power. Shouldn't I? Lyra looked down at her. You just told me the truth. Kale orchestrated everything. He manipulated me from the start. And you know what happens when trust is shattered before a mate bond completes? Helena's eyes widened in horror. The bond becomes volatile. You'll have immense power, but it becomes unstable, dangerous. Lyra smiled coldly. Good thing I only need it to last until the blood moon. She turned to face Kale, who stood frozen, his face devastated. Lyra, please. The blood moon rises in 16 hours, she said calmly. I'll stay until then. Use my power to rebuild your wards, protect your pack. Then I'm taking Finn and leaving. You'll die. That's no longer your concern. She walked past him, stopping only to add, You wanted the Silver Wolf's power? Congratulations. You have it. For 16 more hours. As she walked back into the keep, she heard Vera whisper, "What have you done, Cale?" And his broken response, "I've lost her." 12 hours until moonrise. Lyra stood in the highest tower of the keep, her hands glowing silver as she rewove the valley's protective wards. Each strand of magic felt like pulling glass through her veins, but she didn't stop. The pack needed protection, and she'd promised 16 hours. "You should rest." Vera's voice came from the doorway. "Can't. The wards won't hold if I don't reinforce them every hour." "You're killing yourself faster." Lyra laughed bitterly. "I'm dying anyway. Might as well make it useful." Vera entered, studying her with those two knowing eyes. "You could still complete the bond with someone who orchestrated my brother's near death to manipulate me?" "No thanks. He saved your brother's life. You would have been at the winter market." "Don't." Lyra's voice was sharp. "Don't defend him." "I'm not defending. I'm explaining." Vera moved closer. "Do you know what Cale was like before he left to find you?" "I don't care. He was dying," Vera continued anyway. "Not physically, but an alpha without a true mate begins to fade after their 30th year. Cale is 35. He was going feral, slowly. The visions of you were the only thing keeping him sane. So he decided to play God with my life. He decided to save everyone, including you and Finn. That illness would have killed your brother if you'd been gone. Cale made sure you were there." Lyra's concentration wavered, and one of the ward strands snapped. She cursed, starting over. 8 hours until moonrise. Vera noted, "Your skin is already showing signs." Lyra looked at her arms. Silver veins were becoming visible beneath her skin, like cracks in porcelain. Soon she'd start breaking apart from the inside. "Finn can't see me like this," she whispered. "He's been asking for you. He's stronger than you think. That boy has steel in him. Tell him I'm busy. Tell him anything. Just keep him away when it happens." Vera turned to leave, then paused. "Cale hasn't moved from outside this door since you came up here. He's been there for hours, just sitting against the wall." I know you don't care. I'm just telling you. Also, he's refusing to let us prepare the feral protocols. Says if you die, he dies with you, bond or no bond." After Vera left, Lyra found herself listening for sounds from the hallway. She could sense him there, a dark presence that her wolf desperately wanted to run to, despite everything. "Why?" she thought, not meaning to project it. "Because I love you," came his immediate response, proving he'd been maintaining their mental connection this whole time. "I loved you before I met you, from the first vision. I loved you when you stood up in that tribunal square. I loved you when you saved me despite not knowing what I was. And I love you now, even as you hate me. Love isn't manipulation." "No," he agreed. "It's not. What I did was wrong. Unforgivable. But I need you to know your brother would have gotten sick anyway. I just made sure you'd be there when it happened. 6 hours until moonrise." The silver veins had spread up her neck, and Lyra could feel her wolf tearing against its cage, desperate to get to its mate. She'd moved to the floor, no longer strong enough to stand while maintaining the wards. The door opened, not Vera this time, but Finn. "You look terrible," her little brother said with his characteristic bluntness, sitting down beside her. "Finn, you shouldn't be here. Vera told me everything. About the bond, the manipulation." "What?" Cale did. He was quiet for a moment, then spoke with wisdom beyond his years. "I'm not mad at him." "What?" "I would have died, Lyra. I felt it. The illness was eating me from inside. If he hadn't brought you to that square, if your power hadn't woken up," he shrugged, I'd be dead. That doesn't make what he did right. No, but it makes it understandable. Finn looked at her with those two old eyes. You're really going to die because you're too proud to forgive him? It's not about pride, isn't it? You love him. I can see it. Your wolf cries for him, I can hear it. And I'm not even fully shifted yet. Lyra stared at her brother. When did you get so wise? When my sister decided to die for stupid reasons. He stood. 4 hours left. Please, Lyra, choose to live. For me, if nothing else. 3 hours. Until moonrise. Lyra couldn't maintain the wards anymore. Her hands shook too badly, and the silver veins had spread across her entire body. She looked like a broken mirror. She'd retreated to a guest chamber, not wanting the pack to see her like this. But she could feel them, all of them gathered in the great hall below, waiting, mourning. A knock at the door. She didn't answer, but it opened anyway. Cale stood there, and he looked almost as bad as she did. His eyes were ringed with black, his skin pale, his hands trembling. You're going feral, she observed. The bond is breaking both ways. He entered slowly, like approaching a wounded animal. May I sit? She nodded, too tired to protest. I've done terrible things in my life, he said quietly. Led wolves to their deaths in battle. Killed humans who threatened our territory. But nothing haunts me more than the look on your face when Helena told you the truth. Good. He laughed, short and bitter. Fair. He pulled something from his pocket, a silver ring set with a moonstone. This was my mother's. She told me to give it to my true mate when I found her. I've been carrying it for 15 years. Cale, I'm not asking you to bond with me. I know I've lost that right. But I want you to know that everything I felt, everything I feel is real. You're not just the silver wolf to me. You're Lyra, who spent her last coins to save a stranger, who protected her brother, who ran with me through the forest and laughed in pure joy. 2 hours. The pain was constant now, her body beginning to shift between forms involuntarily. Wolf, human, something in between. Each shift tore something inside her. It hurts, she gasped, curling into herself. Without hesitation, Cale gathered her into his arms, and the moment he touched her, the pain lessened. Our wolves are trying to force the bond, he explained, holding her tighter. Fighting it is what's killing us. I can't trust. Then don't trust me, but trust this. He pressed her hand to his chest, over his heart. Feel what I feel. See what I see. Let the walls down for just a moment. Maybe it was the pain, or the exhaustion, or the knowledge that death was an hour away. But Lyra let her mental walls fall. Cale's emotions flooded through her, not just love, but anguish, self-hatred for his manipulation, terror at losing her, and underneath it all, memories. Him as a child, being told about true mates, years of loneliness, as his peers found their mates, the first vision of her silver eyes and kind heart, the desperate hope that drove him to Shadowmere, the moment he saw her in the crowd, and knew with every fiber of his being that she was his everything. Oh, she breathed, tears streaming down her face. I would have waited, he whispered against her hair. If I'd had time, I would have courted you properly, earned your trust. But the blood moon prophecy gave us 3 months from first vision to bonding, or the silver wolf line dies forever. 1 hour, they'd move to the great hall at the pack's insistence. If their leaders were going to die, they'd bear witness. Lyra could barely stand, supported between Cale and Vera. The silver veins were breaking open now, light spilling from the cracks. It was beautiful and terrible. Please, Finn begged, his mature facade finally cracking as tears streamed down his face. Please don't leave me. I'm sorry, Lyra whispered, her voice barely audible. The moon began to rise, blood red on the horizon. That's when they heard it howling. But not from their pack. The southern packs, someone gasped. And the eastern, and gods above, even the western outcasts. Through the great doors came wolves. Dozens, then hundreds. Alphas, betas, omegas. From every pack in existence. They filled the hall, the courtyard, spilling into the valley. An elderly wolf, white with age, shifted to human form. We came as soon as we heard. The silver wolf has risen. I'm dying, Lyra said. Yes, because you're fighting destiny. The elder approached. Child, do you know why there hasn't been a silver wolf in 100 years? Because they all died exactly like this, too proud or too frightened to accept the bond. It's not about pride, isn't it? You'd rather die than forgive. Rather let our entire species end than admit you love him despite his flaws. The moon was fully rising now, bathing everything in red light. Lyra felt herself fragmenting, dissolving. Choose, the elder commanded. Not for him, not for us, for yourself. Choose life, or choose oblivion. Lyra looked around the hall. At hundreds of wolves who'd traveled through the night to witness this. At Vera, hiding tears. At Finn, brave, even through his tears. At Kale, who was dying beside her, his body breaking down as hers was, but still holding her up. I'm afraid, she admitted. Then look at me, Kale said softly. Look at me when you're afraid. She met his eyes, those amber gold eyes that had haunted her dreams before she'd even known him. I choose, she gasped as silver light erupted from her breaking skin. I choose you. I choose us. I choose. Kale kissed her. The world exploded. Power. It roared through Lyra like a wildfire, burning away everything human and weak and frightened. She was remade in moonlight and starfire, every cell singing with primordial magic that had slept in her bloodline for 1,000 years. When Kale's lips met hers, when she finally stopped fighting the bond, it wasn't gentle, it was cataclysmic. She felt his teeth at her throat, marking her properly this time, and her own fangs descended to mark him in return. Blood and magic mingled as they claimed each other, and every wolf in the valley howled in recognition. The silver veins that had been cracking her apart suddenly burst into pure light. But, instead of destroying her, they reformed her. Larger, stronger, something between wolf and human and divine. When the light finally faded, Lyra stood transformed. Her hair had turned silver white. Her eyes glowed with inner moonlight, and power radiated from her in waves that made even the park elderly elders step back. The prophecy, someone breathed. She's not just a silver wolf. She's the moon's avatar. Kale stood beside her, similarly changed. The bond had transformed him too larger, more powerful, his eyes now holding flecks of silver among the gold. How do you feel? He asked, voice rough. Like I could reshape the world, Lyra answered honestly. She could feel everything, every wolf in the valley, every tree, every stone. The wards she'd struggled to maintain earlier snapped into place with a thought stronger than ever. Lyra. Finn crashed into her, and she caught him easily. You're alive. You're both alive. More than alive, the elderly elder said, approaching with reverence. You've become what the prophecy truly foretold. Not just a silver wolf to unite the packs, but a queen to lead us into a new age. I don't want to be a queen, Lyra said. Want has nothing to do with it, Vera said. But she was smiling. You can feel them all, can't you? Every wolf? Here. Their hopes, their fears, their loyalty. She could. It was overwhelming and humbling. There's something else, Kale said quietly. Now that the bond is complete, I can see your visions too. And Lyra. Helena wasn't the real threat. Before she could ask what he meant, a horn sounded from the valley's edge. Not a war horn, a herald's call. The king's herald. Someone spat. What does the human king want now? The herald was allowed entry, looking terrified to be surrounded by hundreds of wolves. He unrolled a scroll with shaking hands. By decree of His Majesty, King Aldrich III, he read, voice trembling. The one known as the Silver Wolf is commanded to present herself at the royal court. Failure to appear will result in the complete extermination of all wolf packs in the realm. Growls rose from every throat, but Lyra raised her hand for silence. And if I come? She asked. His Majesty wishes to negotiate a treaty. He has something you want. What could he possibly have? Lyra stopped, ice in her veins. No, the herald swallowed. Your foster mother, Maya, the one you thought died in the fire. She's alive. The king has had her for 5 years. The hall erupted in chaos, but Lyra heard none of it. Maya, who had raised her, loved her, protected her secret even when it would have been easier to turn her over to the authorities. It's a trap, Kael said immediately. Of course it is. Lyra's eyes were hard as diamonds. But I'm going anyway. Then we're all going, Vera declared, and hundreds of voices rose in agreement. No. Lyra's voice carried absolute command, and every wolf froze. This is my fight, my past to confront. Our fight, Kael corrected, taking her hand. The bond makes us one. Your past is mine now. She wanted to argue, but the bond hummed with truth. They were one now. His strength was hers, her power was his. Fine. But we go alone. The pack stays here. Lyra, Vera started. That's an order from your queen, Lyra said, and the title felt strange, but right on her tongue. 3 days later, Lyra stood in the human king's throne room, Kael beside her. They'd come in human form, dressed in the finest clothes the pack could provide, but no amount of silk could hide what they were now, predators among prey. King Aldrich was younger than she'd expected, perhaps 30, with calculating eyes and a crown that seemed too heavy for his head. The Silver Wolf? He said, not bothering with formal greetings. You're smaller than the stories suggest. Appearances deceive, Lyra replied calmly. Indeed. The king gestured, and guards brought in a woman in chains. Lyra's heart stopped. It was Maya, older, thinner, but alive. Their eyes met, and Maya's filled with tears. My little moonchild, Maya whispered. You survived. Touching, the king interrupted. Now, to business. I'll release her and guarantee safe passage for all wolf packs through human lands. In exchange, you serve me. Your blood, specifically. My court mages tell me it can cure any disease, extend life indefinitely. You want to farm me like cattle. Such crude language. I prefer mutual benefit arrangement. You help me, I help your kind. And if I refuse? The king smiled coldly. Then dear Maya dies, slowly. And my armies, all of them, from every kingdom I've allied with, descend on your valley. Yes, I know where it is now. Helena was very informative before she died. Lyra felt Kael tense beside her, ready to shift and tear the king apart. But she placed a calming hand on his arm. I have a counter-offer, she said. You're hardly in a position, aren't I? Lyra let a fraction of her power loose, and every piece of silver in the room, weapons, jewelry, decorations, turned black and crumbled to dust. I could kill everyone in this castle with a thought. But I won't, because I'm not like you. The king had gone pale. What do you want? Integration. Wolves and humans, living together. No more hiding. No more hunting. We share our strengths, our healing abilities, our protection, and you share yours. True peace, not subjugation. The people will never accept it. They will if their king commands it. And if that king happens to have the blessing of the silver wolf, ensuring his bloodline rules for 1,000 years. The king's eyes sharpened with interest. You can do that? 1 drop of my blood, freely given, mixed with yours. Your line will be strong, healthy, long-lived. But, she stepped forward, and the king flinched. If you or your descendants ever break faith, ever hunt wolves again, the blessing becomes a curse. Your line will end in agony. How do I know you speak truth? Lyra pricked her finger, letting a single drop of silver blood fall to the stone floor. Where it landed, flowers burst through solid rock, blooming impossibly bright. Life or death, she said simply. Your choice. The king was silent for a long moment. Then, I accept. The ceremony was swift. Blood mixed, oaths spoken, bonds forged between species that had been enemies for centuries. Maya was released, falling into Lyra's arms with sobs of relief. But as they turned to leave, the king said, There's something else. Something you should know about that night. The fire that killed your parents. Lyra froze. It wasn't random. They were targeted because they were hiding something. Not just you, something else. Documents, hidden in the walls. My soldiers found them after. What documents? The king gestured, and a servant brought an old box. Inside were scrolls covered in symbols. Lyra recognized the same ones from the paintings in Moonspire Keep. The original prophecy, the king said. Not the fragment your people know, but the complete text, including the part about what happens after the silver wolf rises. Lyra took the scrolls with shaking hands. As she read, her blood turned cold. What is it? Kale asked. The prophecy doesn't end with our bonding. She whispered. It says the silver wolf's first child will be either the salvation or destruction of both species. And, she looked up, meeting Kale's eyes. I'm already pregnant. She'd felt it the moment their bond completed, new life sparking inside her, created by the magical fusion of their souls. Impossible, Kale breathed. It's been 3 days. Magic doesn't follow human rules, the king said, looking far too pleased. Congratulations, by the way. I do hope it's salvation rather than destruction, for all our sakes. As they left the castle, Maya safely with them, Lyra's mind raced. She'd thought completing the bond was the end of her story, but it was just the beginning. Are you afraid? Kale asked quietly as they traveled back to the valley. Terrified, she admitted. Then look at me, he said, taking her face in his hands. Look at me when you're afraid. She met his eyes and saw her own fear reflected, but also determination, love, and unshakable faith. Whatever comes, he said, we face it together. Together, she agreed, and her wolf sang approval. That night, as the full moon rose silver now, not blood-red, Lyra stood before the assembled packs. Hundreds of wolves had chosen to stay, to follow their new queen. Change is coming, she announced, her voice carrying across the valley. The world we knew is ending, and a new one is beginning. It won't be easy. There will be those who resist, both human and wolf. But we will not hide anymore. We will not live in fear. She felt Kyle's presence beside her, solid and reassuring, their bond humming with shared purpose. From this day forward, Lyra declared, we forge a new path, not as enemies of humanity, but as partners, not as separate species, but as one people. And if anyone human or wolf tries to stop us, she let her power surge, and every wolf in the valley shifted as one, their howls shaking the mountains. They'll learn why I'm not just the silver wolf, she finished, her own transformation rippling through her, larger and more magnificent than ever before. I'm the Alpha Queen, and this is just the beginning. As the pack howled their allegiance to the stars, as Kale pressed against her side in his massive black wolf form, as she felt the new life growing within her pulse with unlimited potential, Lyra finally understood the true meaning of the prophecy. She wasn't meant to save the wolves or the humans. She was meant to make them something new entirely. 3 months later, Lyra stood at the window of Moonspire Keep, her hand resting on her swollen belly. The child within kicked, and silver light sparked beneath her skin, visible even through her dress. She's restless tonight, Kale said, wrapping his arms around her from behind. She always is when the moon is highest, Lyra replied. She'll be here soon. Perhaps tomorrow. The baby turned, and for a moment, Lyra felt the child's consciousness brush against hers, powerful, primordial, and completely other. Neither fully wolf nor human, but something unprecedented. What are you, little one? Lyra whispered. Salvation or destruction? Outside, both wolves and humans patrolled the valley together, protecting the fragile peace their queen had forged. It wasn't perfect. There were still conflicts, still those who resisted change. But tonight, with her mate beside her and her impossible child stirring within, Lyra allowed herself to hope. Look, Kale pointed to the valley entrance where a group of travelers approached. More seeking sanctuary. They came every day now, dormant wolves awakening, humans who'd fallen in love with wolves, half-bloods who'd hidden their nature, all seeking the safety of the Silver Queen's territory. We'll need to expand again, Lyra observed. The king has already agreed to grant us the neighboring valley, Kale reminded her. Your blood in his veins makes him surprisingly cooperative. The baby kicked again, harder this time, and Lyra gasped. Where? The child had touched. Her skin remained glowing. Soon, she whispered to her belly, but not tonight. Tonight, let me just be grateful for what we've built. Kale turned her to face him, his hands gentle on her shoulders. Do you regret it? The choice you made? Never, Lyra said without hesitation. Even with all the manipulation, all the pain, it led us here, to this. She gestured to the valley, to her belly, to him, to home. He kissed her then, soft and sweet, and she felt their bond sing with contentment. Whatever came next, whatever their child would become, they would face it as they'd faced everything else. Together, the silver wolf had risen. The Alpha Queen ruled, and the future, terrifying and beautiful in equal measure, was theirs to shape.